Cross comes in. White with the header. 1-0 England.
And here comes Whitehead. It's gold for Great Britain.
Welcome to another episode of Track and Ball podcast with myself, Ellen White.
And I'm Richard Whitehead.
Now, on today's episode, we have a footballer.
No.
He's played 4 times for his country, born and raised in the Midlands, started off his career at Nottingham Forest. He has a thunderbolt of a right foot, great talent on the ball, played for Spurs, and he was compared to the legend that is Glenn Hoddle due to his magnificent ability to find a pass. Excited to chat to Tom Huddlestone today.
Yes, mate.
Evening, guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
No, very good. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
You look chilled, mate. You look chilled.
No, try it.
So this year's been a tough year for football, I think. When you look at, obviously, the pandemic how it's had a massive effect on like fans and VAR, the Super League at the moment. Do you think football's at a crossroads at the moment? Where do you see it going in the future?
I think if the Super League had gone ahead as planned, I think it would have been a big crossroads, to be fair. Thankfully, a few of the owners and clubs seen a little bit of sense or common sense. I think the VAR, I just think that needs ironing out a little bit. I think it's a good idea and a good concept, but just a few finer details, which I think we probably should have expected them to be teething problems, but it's probably going on longer than expected, to be honest.
Mate, if you've got big toes, you're struggling, aren't you?
No, exactly. And again, different coloured boots, armpits, fingernails, everything. There's a lot of grey area where other sports that technology is involved in, like your NFLs, cricket or tennis, it's black and white. Whereas I think football, there's a lot of grey areas. So even some of the VAR decisions, people are still swayed both ways. So it's still down to one person's interpretation on that incident, which is the same as it was before with a referee being in charge.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky, isn't it? And for you at the moment, what are your plans moving forward, like club wise, and do you see yourself in like manager or coaching, that type of thing?
Short term, obviously, it's been a long year for myself as well. Not only with the pandemic, but this is my first year since leaving school without having a club. So it's been difficult in that aspect. Physically feeling good and mentally still want to have another year or two in football. So hopefully I can get myself in somewhere pre-season, hit the ground running and show sort of people what I can do and what value I can bring to a squad, whether it's on the pitch or helping younger players. Longer term, I've done a few media bits this year without having a club, which I thoroughly enjoyed, to be honest. I do quite enjoy the media side of it and doing a bit of research beforehand, and I enjoy watching football and studying the game anyway. So I think longer term, if I could coincide that with a little bit of coaching. Personally, my character, I don't feel management would be for me, but whether an assistant manager.
What's your character like?
Just quite chilled and laid back, and I think I'd work well under a manager kind of thing. Leave him to give the tellings off and me just to take the coaching sessions or whatever it needs to be.
You talked a little bit there about mental health. You've obviously been watching a lot of football this year and studying the game, but how have you found, like, mentally, not being actually with the lads and the training and the banter? And
I think that's been the toughest part, to be honest. Start of the season, I was keeping on top of my fitness, expecting and hoping to sort of get the phone call off my agent or a club, which the longer that went on and on, you sort of, for a couple of months, in maybe just before Christmas or around Christmas time, I didn't have much interest in watching football, to be honest, just because I'd watched the first few months and a lot of the games I was watching, I knew I would be able to add value to them certain teams. But without the phone call, I'm sat at home. And I think that coinciding with the fact it's been a difficult year for everybody. For me, if it was a normal, say, summer or season without a club, you would have been able to see the family more often, go on holiday with the family to get away from things, or I'm quite enjoying my golf the past few years. So everything like that has stopped. So it's probably impacted it a little bit more.
Wait a minute, are you enjoying your golf? Are you playing with Gareth at the moment?
No.
So you've had 400, well over 400 appearances in your career. What would you say your highlights are?
I think there's a few, to be honest, without sounding sort of big-headed. I think a big achievement looking back and the way the game's gone now, literally as soon as I left school, I got straight into Derby's first team and played 2 full seasons as like a 16 and 17-year-old in the Championship at a club. We finished 4th in one of the seasons, so a club that was pushing for promotion, which now I know Bellingham played quite a lot at Birmingham as well at a young age, and obviously got his move to Dortmund, but there isn't many that get in the team at that age and stay there for a sustained period. The only trophy I've won is the League Cup with Tottenham, which, as you know, that's too long ago for them not to have won a trophy since. But that's a very proud moment for myself. And I have said it recently, speaking to people from Tottenham. I was only 21 at the time, and at the time we were getting to quarterfinals and semi-finals quite regular, whether it be in the domestic cup competitions or the Europa League. So I probably took it a little bit for granted, to be honest, at the time. But looking back now, I know it's downplayed, the League Cup, but it is an achievement that I am proud of. But I think as a kid, obviously you want to win the Premier League, but making my debut for England in Qatar, my mum was there in the crowd, and it was against Brazil, so that was
sick,
like,
right?
the ideal opponent to make your debut against.
Who was in the Brazil side? Can you remember?
I actually seen a program the other day of it, and it was like, I think Robinho, Kaká, Thiago Silva, Lucio.
Right.
I actually could you get 2 shirts? I swapped one of the shirts with Gilberto Silva.
Nice.
We had the same agent at the time, so I think they had pre-arranged it. Otherwise, I'd have tried to get Kaká's.
Yeah. The Arsenal connection as well, like.
What would you say was the biggest kind of decision that you've had to make in your career?
I think there's been 2, and not thankfully, but I've only had sort of 3 permanent clubs in my career. The first time at 18, when I ended up signing for Tottenham, I signed in January, and as I said, we ended up finishing 4th in the playoffs that season. But I think at the time we were 3rd in the league, and going to a massive club like Spurs was like, do I risk not signing in January and wait till the summer and see if there's Tottenham or other options, with the possibility of getting promoted with Derby and having more of a chance to play regular in the Premier League for the club I played for the past couple of seasons? But on the other hand, which outweighed it in the end, was how often do these opportunities come around? This was 2004. So you had your Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool established top 4. And then after that, in my eyes, it felt like it was Tottenham, Everton, Newcastle as your next bracket, and then everybody else after that. So that was a difficult decision, but one that I couldn't pass up. And then probably leaving Spurs as well after being there 8 years. I had a long injury. Once I just sort of established myself in the team with Harry Redknapp, I missed sort of 18 months on and off, maybe played 10 games throughout that period. By the time I was fit, we had a new manager in AVB who I played a few games, but I didn't feel I got the right opportunities under him. So leaving a club after 8 years where you've signed as sort of an 18-year-old boy and leaving as a 26-year-old man, that was quite a difficult decision, but one I felt I had to make at the time to be playing more regular football.
Yeah, mate, it was useless as well, so you did made the right decision. You've played with obviously a lot of talented players. Like I was looking on Wikipedia through, because you were at Spurs at 2005, weren't you? So
Yeah.
like Berbatov and people like that. Who would you say are the most talented players that you've played with and then against?
I think I always said with the Spurs ones, the three that stand out are like obviously Bale,
Okay.
Modric, and Berbatov. For me, coming in and hitting the ground straight away, I think Berbatov was the best I've played with. Obviously, Gareth had quite a slow progression at Tottenham, and by the end, he was a world star and went on to Madrid and has done unbelievable things. Similar with Luka, I guess. But for me, the whole time he was there, Berbatov was like second to none. And against, growing up, I was the biggest Steven Gerrard fan. So, as in direct opponent, I'd have to say Steven Gerrard.
I love watching kind of strikers and stuff. What made Berbatov so good to have as a teammate?
I think as a midfielder, anywhere in his vicinity, you could play it as hard as you want, at whatever height you want, and he would bring it under control. He looks a bit gangly and stuff, but he's like one of the strongest players, whether it's just natural core strength. He does work quite hard in the gym and stuff, to be fair, but that natural core strength, there's not many centre half. You look at him and centre halves will think, oh, I can bully him today, or I can hit him the first few minutes and he won't fancy it. But wherever you gave him the ball, he was obviously composed, as we know. Never lashed at a ball, was always very relaxed with his finishing. But yeah, I just thought he used class on and off the pitch, to be honest.
He didn't do a lot of running though, did he? I think he's got more leather jackets than he did running, I think.
Yeah, true. But another one, the way he played, he never lost the ball. So
yeah, I didn't need to.
those ones that gave the ball away more than him probably should have done a bit of the running instead.
You mentioned earlier about the research for some of the media work you've done, and like for me personally, I do a lot of kind of analysis on my game, looking at goalies, centre halves, the way they move, their strengths or weaknesses. Have you used kind of that type of thing in your game quite a bit throughout your career?
When I went to Hull, well, at Tottenham with AVB, it started to come in. You get like an email the night before for people to have a look on their phone or iPad, and it'll just give, say, the 15 players that are likely to play for the opposition, little 2 or 3 minutes on their strengths, weaknesses, and what they like to do more often than not. I think, without sounding disrespectful to the players, more so my first couple of years back at Derby, when it was back in the Championship and we got similar emails, I'd probably, because it was players that I hadn't watched that much or didn't know that much about, I'd probably studied it a little bit more then, to be honest. I wouldn't go into too much details because I would more often than not sort of want them to worry about me and my team and what we can do rather than being overly worried about their strengths and weaknesses. But it is, I think with technology now, it is a good help and a bit of insight into the opposition, regardless of if you're watching them, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week on the telly. You might still pick a little one thing up that might give you that little advantage that you're after.
Yeah,
And
definitely within the game.
And like with players that you've kind of played with or that you look at now, do you think it's like ability or attitude that takes you to the next level, or mixture? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's definitely a mixture, but I think we've seen with some players that attitude can get you a long way as well. I think if it's just ability, it won't get you as far as if you've got the right attitude. And obviously, if you could combine the two, then all well and good. I think with the way the managers are nowadays, especially in the Premier League, if they've got somebody that's willing to listen, willing to buy into their ideas, and sort of graft their nuts off in the week, I think managers can take relatively average players and make them sort of world beaters.
100%.
Name an average player that's now a world beater.
No, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
If you look at the Liverpool team that Klopp inherited, and then they've all brought into his, not that they've been great this season, but they've all brought into his ideas. Even some of the players that Guardiola's worked with, a lot of people would scratch their head when he's signing them, but he develops the players just because they're willing to listen and work hard and buy into everything that he's saying.
Yeah, it's definitely important, and I think you've definitely got to have the talent and the ability, but attitude's something that you need to have. One, to develop as not just a player but also a team player as well, and I think that's definitely from the guests that we've had before. We've all talked about the talent, having that raw talent and having something inside you, but also having the attitude that you want to be better. Now, I wanted to get a Spurs question in. Right, before we do that, let me show you this. So I've got a lot of Spurs shirts, you know, like loads. I think I've got about 50 Spurs shirts. And so I got this. I don't know where I got it or how I got it, but I got this shirt. You remember this one, right?
Yeah, 4-4 Villa.
Yeah. And then for some reason, I don't know on the back. I don't know, mate. I must have won it at like a trombola or something. But it's a pretty cool shirt though. But what?
Yeah,
what
that
you,
was the. Go on, sorry.
Go on, mate. No, go on, mate.
No, I remember that shirt. It was the 125th anniversary at home to Villa, and there was quite a few when I was there. But that was one of the crazy epic games. I think it finished 4-4 somehow. I just remember.
Was that the Bentley? Was that the Bentley goal? Did Bentley score that game? Was it like from the halfway or something?
Oh no, that was Arsenal away. That was 3-3. No, that was 4-4 as well, actually. I remember Yunus Kabul jumping on Martin Yole as part of the celebrations, and that's two big heavyweights right there.
Yeah. Martin Yole's a big guy, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of the situation at the moment at Spurs? I as a fan, and I do some of the fan podcasts as well. A massive Pochettino fan. I went to Madrid for the final, kind of bought into that philosophy. It kind of went a little bit sour, and some of the fans turned their back on him. And you can see how, like, when you're in with the fans, you're in with them, and then all of a sudden you have like 8 or 9 bad results where the players aren't playing very well, and then also they get rid of him, and then obviously they get Mourinho in. And never like Mourinho. Like anybody that knows me always says, like Ellen's cringing now because literally I've never said one good word about Mourinho. And I watched that Amazon Prime show and thought, this guy is a right joker. Like Dele Alli, one of our best players. Oh, you're lazy. You need to work harder. I'm like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. What do you think's behind the kind of the downturn of Spurs at the moment?
Well, just going back off topic, but I think Pochettino's the perfect example for making pretty average players world stars, from what we were just saying before. But yeah, I'm the opposite. I love Mourinho from his first stint at Chelsea. But when he was linked with being the Tottenham manager, I was thinking there's no way him and Daniel are going to see eye to eye. The type of squad Pochettino's like, he was like a father figure to a lot of the younger players, wasn't he? And we know that Mourinho doesn't manage like that. So I initially thought there's no way this can work. But then the first, say, 6 months, the way he was speaking in the press conferences, the results were better. Yeah, you was thinking, he might have sort of turned a leaf in his managerial style. But then as soon as it goes sour, it's like, you can see why it was never going to work in the first place. But I think the next manager's got a big job on his hands, because I think it's a mini rebuilding job, really. Whatever back four they play doesn't look settled or that strong defensively. Obviously, the Son, Kane, Bale or Moore on the right. Dele Alli, your sort of front four almost picks itself, but you're going to need reinforcements. Højbjerg, I think he's been excellent. But it's who you play with him. The way Tottenham want to play, so I'm not sure Sissoko's the right central midfielder to play the way that Tottenham usually play. He's good on the wing as an impact player, I think. And at Newcastle, he was very dangerous as a winger. Equally, Harry Winks, him and Højbjerg are pretty similar, as in they sit a little bit deeper. Winks probably wants to get on the ball a little bit more. So you're looking back four and midfield 2 or 3. You're going to need sort of 6 or 7 players, and the way the game's going, that's going to be a lot of money that Daniel probably won't want to part with.
So then, manager-wise, that would reflect on the next appointment. Who do you reckon will come into the club?
I've seen Conte linked, but I can't see him leaving Inter after just winning the league, unless he's given 5 or 6 players that he wants. Seen linked with Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, or Scotty Parker, actually. I think if you give it to a younger one like a Scotty Parker or Graham Potter, whatever happens, you have to stick with them for 18 months to 2 years and try and see a progression. Because if you give him 6 months and 1 or 2 transfer windows and sack somebody again, you're back to square one. After, with Pochettino, the 5 years was like fully like that. And Tottenham are in that sort of transitional period at the minute where it sort of could go either way.
Do you see them being able to keep Harry Kane?
People were mentioning about trophies, and I think similar with Salah at Liverpool, I don't think trophies are the be-all and end-all for Harry Kane's and Salah's, but if you don't win a trophy and miss out on the top 4, I think it makes it a lot more difficult to keep hold of him. And it wouldn't surprise me if I just think it's not written in the stars, because obviously anyone connected with Tottenham, maybe not yourself, but would want to see him stay. But I think with Aguero leaving, and me personally, I think Harry Kane wants to stay in the Premier League, break Alan Shearer's record, and then nobody ever will get anywhere near to that, I don't think. If Harry Kane can finish on 280 Premier League goals, I can't see anybody surpassing that.
Was he in the team, the under 21s when you were there? Was he?
Yeah, he was. He played a couple of games. I think when I said I was injured on and off for 18 months, one of the games was in the Europa League against Hearts, and I think that was his debut game. Then he had a couple of loans after that, but that's another one. As a younger player, you wouldn't say, oh, his ability is going to take him right to the top, but you could see his work ethic, out practicing. Obviously, his finishing's always been unbelievable. But somebody who's got some ability, but that work rate can go as far as they want, really, with the right opportunities.
And what about like the Euros? Gareth's got a tough decision on his hands. Like,
I've discussed this with a couple of my mates, and we've gone through our full team or squad, and then they'll go, oh, what about him? And then there's 4 or 5 players that you think, oh, they should be in it, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, well, he's got a tough enough decision for his formation, first and foremost, never mind the squad.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, there's going to be 2 or 3 that will feel very hardly done by. But that's what he's in that position for. And I did say this about 6 months ago to my mate, because he was asking me about Mason Mount. Obviously, we had him on loan at Derby, and he was unbelievable.
Awesome,
Another one who's got that work ethic as well. I said, by the time the Euros comes round, it'll be Rice, Mount, and Foden as your 3 in midfield against the lesser teams. And I said it could be that for the next sort of 8 to 10 years for England. And he was like, oh, I'm not sure about Mounty, and like Foden can only play on the wing. I'm like, against the lesser teams, you only need one. Like, obviously, Gareth's renowned for playing 2 sitters against the lesser teams. But for me, I think that midfield 3 would be exceptional, and it still allows you to play Kane, Rashford, Sterling, whoever you want as your front 3.
Sandro. I think with the Euros this year, if Kane did get injured, I don't think it would be a bigger issue than it was previously because obviously Foden can fit in at like a 3 up front as well, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think that's another thing with Foden being in and around the systems that Guardiola's played. He's played as that false number 9, or when he plays with no striker but sort of 2 number 10s. He can play wide left, he can play wide right, and he can play central. So he adds a lot of strings to England's bow. Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, they've all had great seasons as well. Rashford could play through the middle as well, you'd imagine. So there is a lot of options for him to choose from.
And what about Alexander-Arnold? He's got to go, hasn't he? He's got his best cross of the ball in the team. For me, I think you can use him as a utility player as well, not just obviously in his preferred position. Maybe play him as a wing back, or
I think
what do you reckon?
I think if it's a 3 at the back, I think he'll play as the wing back on the right hand side. Yeah. For me, I still think Walker's the best right back in the league and the English one. So if
he's going to play one of those centres, though, isn't he? He's going to chuck him inside.
If it's a back 3, I think Walker will play as the right centre back. But yeah, it's awkward because you don't want to overload one position. In like obviously England have got 4 or 5 outstanding right backs, all playing for massive clubs and doing well. Sort of Walker, Alexander-Arnold, Reece James will fancy his chances of being in there because Chelsea are flying. You've got Trippier, Wan-Bissaka's at Man United finishing 2nd in the league. So you've got 5, and usually it will be 2, maximum of 3. So a couple of them are going to miss out, and that'll probably be his hardest decision, I'd say.
And bringing it back to you, Tom, you as a player. But like, what are you kind of up to in the summer? Just getting yourself as fit as you can to hopefully then get a club.
Yeah, basically, as I say, last summer we had the initial 10-week lockdown. The club gave us a program, and I'd missed a bit of last season anyway, but got into good shape. Came back with no fans. That was quite weird. And then, as I said, physically and mentally, I felt very good. So I was expecting and hoping to be back in a championship club by the start of this season, which didn't happen. First few months, I really kept on top of everything fitness-wise, waiting for the call, which I'm still waiting for. And then, yeah, probably
agent,
the past...
Pick up the phone.
Yeah. The past sort of maybe 5 or 6 weeks, I've done a little bit, but I haven't sort of religiously kept on top of it as I did. But last week, I wrote myself out a 6-week program, which is like a weights program, running sort of 5 or 6 times a week, including either rowing, like indoor rowing, or indoor bike sessions first thing in the morning as well. So hopefully after them sort of 6 weeks, I'll be in top shape. And as I said, the target is to get in somewhere in pre-season, show my fitness as at a level that you wouldn't expect after not playing for a year, and then show my qualities on the ball and helping the younger players in whatever squad it may be.
What's the process in that as well? Is that solely just waiting for your agent, or would you kind of go, oh, I know this player at, I don't know, Wickham, or I know this player at Middlesbrough, let's kind of try and tap up the manager?
At the start of this season, it was a case of relying on your agent kind of thing. But that, as I say, that nothing came of that. I wouldn't want to put too much pressure on a player going to see a manager and saying, oh, my mate told me he's out of contract, would you fancy it? But it's getting to that stage where if I needed to get a manager's number or a chief executive number, I'm old enough now and long enough in the tooth to be able to pick up the phone, especially after waiting so long, and ring a manager and just say, I've not had a club for a while. Am I right to come and train with you guys and see if you fancy me after 2 or 3 weeks of pre-season? Like, if not, fair enough.
Some TikTok training videos. That's it, Tom. Get you on TikTok.
I think that's what I'm missing. I remember
get the six pack out. You'll be fine.
On YouTube, didn't he? Might have to do that.
So we finish off, Tom, with 10 quick fire questions. and I'll let you go first, Els.
Quick fire
Okay.
answers as well, or
Oh, it's up to you. Depends
Okay.
if you you can do.
Okay, first one, track or ball?
ball. More options.
Wait.
What's your greatest accomplishment in life so far?
Making my family proud, I think.
That's good.
Are they still based in Nottingham, Tom?
Yeah, my mum's up in Colton, and then the rest of the family are scattered around Nottingham, but they're all up this way.
Okay. Do you believe in ghosts?
Not at the minute.
You've not got a ghost at home then?
No.
And I think you've answered this before, but what's the biggest risk you've taken?
It's different to what I answered earlier, but I'd say so. The year we got relegated with Hull in the Championship, I was actually in my last year of my contract, and Steve Bruce had said sort of, if we get promoted, we can offer you a new contract, but if we don't, we might have to let you go. So that was a bit of a risk the last 6 months of that season, and thankfully we got to the playoff final and won, and I ended up signing a new 2-year contract after that, thankfully.
Nice.
Blimey. Okay, next one. Can you sing?
No, but what did I do? My initiation at Derby, I did Gangster's Paradise. Just because it gets to the chorus pretty quick, so it wasn't too bad. And once you're at the chorus, everybody joins in, and
It's
you can get off the
nerve-wracking,
chair.
isn't it, doing them?
Yeah, it's horrible. The
What did you do,
first one I
Els?
did it.
No, go on, Tom.
No, first one I did at Spurs, we was in South Korea in the pre-season, and there were 6 new signings, and we was out. Everyone had had a couple of beers, so everyone just said, "Oh, you can get up in pairs." So that was a little bit easier. Me and Aaron Lennon did something then. I think it might have been Michael Dawson and Andy Reid did something together. And doing it in pairs is a lot easier than, especially once everyone's had a couple of drinks, rather than standing in a hotel room with the waiters about and you're in front of teammates that you've only known for a few weeks. That can be very awkward.
Definitely. Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun at all.
When are you the happiest?
Sporting wise, probably assisted or scoring goals. Not that the scoring takes part that often. But away from football, obviously family time as anybody. But in a different sporting environment, as I mentioned earlier, I'm quite keen into my golf. So even if I play by myself, stick the AirPods in, get a podcast on, and sort of
Track and ball, obviously.
A couple of hours walking around by myself playing golf.
What's the silliest thing you've ever got upset about?
Well, you could ask my wife. There'll be a lot of stuff. I'm not sure, actually. As I say, I'm quite chilled and laid back, so I don't think nothing would have rattled my cage too much.
I bet there's loads. I bet there's loads, mate. With a little bit of dirt on those white boots or something like that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
The plan would be to have 2 or 3 nights regular media work alongside being an assistant manager at whatever level, to be fair. One of my friends, he's looking to go his own route either next summer or the summer after, and would want me as a player assistant. So hopefully, if he gets whatever job he wants.
Is the one in the
10 years'
pipeline?
time. No, he's in a job at the minute, so
Okay.
can't say too much.
How would your friends describe you?
I don't know, laid back, unfazed. determined, driven. Or that's what I want them to describe me as.
But really, they would say different, right? No.
I don't know. I
Just
think
chilled,
it won't
right?
be too far away from that.
And the last question, what's your greatest fear?
I don't know. I do have a little bit of the old FOMO, fear of missing out on things. So I'd want to live forever, really, and see how the world progress. But obviously, that's not going to happen. But I'm not sure as a realistic one.
Have you got like a bucket list of things to do as well? Have you got?
I haven't yet. What I did say when I first started playing golf, that my retirement summer would be, I want to go and have a 5-day trip out to Pebble Beach and play that golf course and a few other bits on the west coast of America. But I don't want that to be for a couple of years yet.
Well, cheers, Tom. You've been a star, and yeah, thanks for your honesty. We had Darren Bent on, and he did mention about you being on the plane when he actually had to jump off the plane to sign. So he did mention you on our other podcast. But no, thanks a lot for your time and your energy, mate. And yeah, see you on the road soon for one of those runs.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Need to get in shape first. Thanks a lot, guys.
And here comes Whitehead. It's gold for Great Britain.